What's up, y'all? So we're back in the garage. So I'm gonna go over some of the dyno prep that I'm doing for. I'm going to one tuning in Maryland with a guy named Mike that I was recommended to by my boy Phil. Phil is very knowledgeable about cars and tuning, and this guy Mike is very AM Infinity. So the first thing that we did was we put new oil in it, and then we also collected an oil sampler for Blackstone. This is the oil that I'm using right now. It's I use the Euro L full synthetic because it's supposedly it's got some additives that make it better or whatever. I don't know. I'm sending it out to Blackstone to see if it actually is good. The oil filter had some crap in it, as I mentioned in my last video. So we put a new oil filter on, put the oil in. It's all good. Full 5 quarts. The next thing is, as I mentioned when I was picking up the car, is we have the cam gears showing. So this will allow us to basically shift the torque curve to the left if we need to. What else am I going to do? So, other things. Spark plugs and injectors. So these are 1 step colder than OEM. They're recommended by my tuner. And they're NGKs, they're copper. And then these are RC440 injectors. And so if I end up maxing out my GSR injectors, I will have a second set of injectors to put on the car. To be honest with you, this tuning session, yes, it's expensive. Yes, ideally, I would have tons of spares and tons of stuff to test just to make sure everything worked well. But I just want the car to run. The coil on plug is iffy to me. It's a new motor. I just want it to run. I'm not really focused on being the fastest car this season. I might not even make all the races this season. So, yeah, that's where we're at right now. Good morning, race fans. Okay, so we are now in the process of packing up. Last night I moved a lot of parts that I had laying around here into the garage. It doesn't look much cleaner in here because it's a mess still, but it is, which is scary. I wasn't able to get my PLM high-tech replica together last night. I literally just gave up. I was just done with it. So unfortunately, I'm not going to be testing that today. However, Phil does have some intakes that I'm going to be picking up. He left them next to the trash at his house, so how appropriate. We're going to be able to do that. But yeah, cleaned up my yard a little bit yesterday. I still have a door outside of my house. But we're going to get the dolly linked up. Civic is sitting by the tree, and we should be good to go. All right, so she's loaded up. The standalone seems to want to crank over a couple times before it actually fires up. You have to hit it like 3 times before it actually fires up. And then on the 3rd time, you know, if you don't hold the key or play with the throttle, it doesn't work quite right. I talked to somebody else, Dane, from Texas Honda Challenge, and he said, yeah, it's common. But I also haven't set my throttle position sensor, and I haven't timed the car yet. So we're going to bring it down and see if Mike from 1 Tuning can help us. Probably stop at Wawa, get myself a sandwich, and then we'll head down to Maryland. What's up, buddy? You want to be on camera? You famous bird? He's camera shy. All right. We are in sunny Delaware, and we are at Phil's house. Phil is on vacation. He's in Florida. Phil lives near a bunch of like motorheads and stuff, which is really cool. And he's got like a bunch of dirt bikes. He used to race motocross before he decided to buy a Honda Challenge car. But yeah, so here's the intakes he left me. Here's a custom made one, and then here's an AM V2. So basically, you know, he's gonna be in Florida when I'm gonna be at Watkins Glen. So, okay, sorry for the bad camera work, but basically, because he's not going to be at the Glen, you know, he was like, I'm not going to be using it, so like, you know, you go ahead and use it. So we're going to be testing these intakes to see if they make any more power, and my Jeep is locked, and hopefully they do. So, all right, guys, we're here. So the car is off the trailer, well, dolly. And we are at 1 Tuning with Mike. Some pretty fancy cars here. Is that a time attack car? Or is it a show car? Wow. Wild. the way that the car was set up before is it was an H4 car. So what that means is there was no ECU. So because of that, you know, I was running everything to a CAN bus module, or I was running, to a CAN bus module and not to an ECU. So basically nothing is talking with the ECU right now. So for now, to get it running, we are going to wire up the output from the AEM wideband gauge to the ECU, and that should allow us to play with our volumetric efficiency tables, which is how AEM does their tuning on the ECUs. So it's an advantage and a disadvantage in the sense that it's more complex, but it's an advantage because you're tuning to the efficiency of the engine outright as opposed to something else. I don't really know a lot about tuning, but that's what I do know. So, all right. So I'm eating a Wawa sandwich. We have the gauge pulled out, and Mike is over here depinning that connector for the ECU so that we can wire it straight into the ECU. If you don't normally wire it into the ECU this way, you can normally just, you're good. You can normally just connect it from the O2 sensor straight to the ECU, but I don't know what I'm doing, so Mike is here doing this. All right, so we got the AFR hooked up to the computer. The next thing that we did after that was we got the throttle pressure set up, the throttle cable, and now we synced the timing. Okay, so we basically moved the distributor around a little bit while we had a timing light on it to get it set up with the software, and now we're trying to fix a hard start issue, and then we're going to hopefully be able to go on the dyno. All right, and then so we're basically ready for the dyno now. The one issue that we did run into is the OEM sensor is actually reading like 30 or 40 degrees off from the AEM sensor. So the fan was on. I noticed the fan was on, and I was saying, that's weird. The fan came on when it was really low, and the dash was reading like 160 or 170 degrees Fahrenheit. And my tuner was looking at his laptop, and he was like, oh, it's reading 200. And I'm like, okay. So we get a infrared thermometer on the thermostat housing, and we confirm the reading from the dash was correct, and the reading from the OEM sensor was not, which makes a lot of sense because the way that the curves are, they're on a logarithmic scale on the y-axis for the OEM sensors, and so calibrating them can sometimes be troublesome. I actually ran into that issue when I was trying to run an OEM sensor to that dash when I first put it in. That's why I put the AEM sensor in. But what we're going to do is we're basically going to disable any protection and then do a manual cutoff if we see it go above a certain limit with the coolant temperature, and that will allow us to save the motor if anything does happen with the head gasket or something like that, but also tune the car still. And then when the winter comes, Mike was basically like, you need to rewire the way the CAN is set up, because the way I have it now is I'm using the CAN bus module from AEM, which is down there in the middle, the center console. You can see it's like right under the middle of the center console. But really, he said, you know, with all the inputs the ECU has, you don't even really need that 22-channel CAN sensor module. Just put it into the ECU, from the ECU to the dash, and be done. So that's probably what I'm going to be doing this off season. He even offered to build me a harness for the car, which would be sick. But yeah, so we are going to get on the dyno, and we're going to see if this car can make some jam. Also wanted to talk about this car that Mike has. It's his time attack car. So this is a turbocharged K series, as you can see, with the drive-by-wire infinity set up in this car as well, with a custom wiring harness that he built himself. This car actually has a radiator in the back for the coolant with its own pump system and, you know, Radiant Technologies fuel cell and everything like that. Bias valve for your brakes. It's got a PDM module. It's very trick. It's a little bit above my league in terms of performance, but and if you look at the way he mounted his VDM, even that is awesome as compared to what I have. Mine is, although this is flexing a little bit too, mine is flexible. And then his GPS comes out of the top. Mine is just magneted to the roof, but it still works. So, you got anything to say?
Hey, what's up?
What's up?
What are you doing? Just admiring this thing?
I'm just admiring your car, yeah.
It's not perfect by any means.
Not perfect. Yeah, well, you know, watch the paint on my car.
I know,
know,
right? I want to ding it up.
Yeah.
All right.
I guess so, yeah. At least it looks like I can sort of drive.
Okay. Fuel ratio. It's showing 12.2, but my table was set for 73.
Yeah.
So the ECU sees that and corrects it up to 80 to get us to our target.
So the ECU is basically a closed feedback loop. The ECU is okay.
Exactly, and that's why we wanted to hook the wideband to the ECU so it can perform this task. Otherwise, you're gonna be relying on this table all the time.
Right.
And if temp changes, load changes, air quality, fuel, whatever changes, the ECU is gonna automatically adjust.
Wow. Okay.
So,
sick.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Alright, so he tinkered with some stuff and we fixed the cold start, hot start issue where it wasn't starting up. Look how beautiful that car looks. Woo. Alright, so right now we are...
It is at 0.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
It's like a half a degree or something.
Yeah. Alright, so we're in the process right now. The fueling is all good. The car is still making jam. It's making 180 up top. But yeah, the VTEC crossover is smoothing out. We raised it, lowered it from 5,000 to 48 to 46. Now we're going to 4,400. And he's thinking that we might not even need to mess with the timing up top with the ignition to get the power out. He's thinking that we can just kind of advance the exhaust cam. So right now we're in the process of playing with the cam gears so that we can make a little more power and down low and then pull power out the top. Does that help?
Yep. Perfect.
Marks is 4 degrees. Got it.
So these you don't want to get them like balls tight.
15 foot-pounds or something. That's the hard pattern.
What you can do after we're done, like when you take it home, just fill them with a torque wrench.
Yeah.
For now, since we're going to be
now we are moving the ignition cam. We're going to advance it 3 marks, which is 6 degrees.
intake cam.
The intake cam. Did you loosen those up?
Yep. You missed it. You were getting vlog ready.
Yeah, I was, bro. I was doing it for the gram.
Vlog prep.
It's very smooth, yeah.
By the way, it's accurate. If we did it earlier, it might get it. So.
True. Alright, so we basically advanced the exhaust cam gear a little bit. Didn't really do much. So now we're going to advance the intake cam gear.
That's so smooth.
I don't want to show it.
Oh.
I don't want to show it, no. It made too much power again. We tried throwing fuel up top. It's at 11 to 1 up top now, still making power. We tried pulling timing out, still making power. We tried advancing the exhaust cam gear by 2 didn't do anything. We advanced the intake cam, made more power, up top and down low. So now we're going to try advancing the intake cam, or the exhaust cam, to 4 marks, which is 8 degrees before top dead center, and we'll see what happens. So we almost made cap, 175.8 SAE, smoothing at 5, which is what I'm going to be dyno to. So it's currently at 10.7 minimum AFR up top, which is really low, and the ignition table looks terrible. But we're going to pull 2 more degrees of ignition out, get it just under the cap, and it should be good to go. Okay, so didn't really get a chance to film after the dyno session, but we were able to get the car under the cap of 175 horsepower SAE to like 174.2 with about, I think it was 139 wheel torque, which is pretty good for a GSR. Some people are skeptical as to whether the car is actually making that power. Some people are skeptical as to what the reliability of the ECU will be, but only time will tell. This week, I'm going to Watkins Glen for my first race with the car. We are supposed to have a 14-car field in Honda Challenge H2, which is the biggest field I've been in. So I'm very excited to see what happens, and I don't expect to win. We have the national champ coming up, Chris Michaels. We have another guy from NASA Mid-Atlantic. Those guys are fast. We have some really promising rookies. We have some surprise guests showing up from Northeast as well. And so I really don't expect to be super fast, but it will be interesting to see what happens, and I'm hoping that everything goes well. So thanks for watching, and I'm going to keep the vlog updated.